Hunger is a global crisis gripping millions, threatening lives and futures. Today we explore solutions and India's growing role in this fight. Joining me is Skau, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the United Nations World Food Programme. Mr. Skau, welcome back to India. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
India has transformed from a food-scarce nation to a global supplier of food aid. How vital is India's partnership with the World Food Programme in tackling hunger hotspots, and what makes India's approach a game changer?
Well, the partnership is already important, but we're looking to broaden and deepen that partnership. One, of course, India has itself an important story to tell, having been a country where we assisted and is now a net exporter of food with a food surplus. So there are impressive progress, and there is also excellent initiatives that we want to draw from India to also bring to the world in dealing with the world global food crisis.
Globally, India's grain ATM and rice fortification initiatives are being adopted by the World Food Programme worldwide. Can you share success stories of these initiatives in action and how they are reshaping hunger relief efforts?
I think one of the key issues for us is to look at efficiency and effectiveness. And here India has successful initiatives around smart warehousing, around supply chain optimization. And we are now bringing those to the world, to crises like Ethiopia, to Sudan, so that we can make our operations even more efficient. The big issue we have before us is that the needs keep growing, and now the resources are coming down, and we need to try to tap that gap. And one way of doing so is to be more efficient and to draw on these innovative solutions that India can help scale also for the world.
This isn't your first visit to India. You were here in 2024 and earlier this year. What brings you back now, and how is India key to achieving the United Nations Zero Hunger goal by 2030?
Well, we want to deepen and expand the partnership with India. We would like to bring the initiatives, the ideas, the solutions that India has to the world, but we also are here to agree on a way to procure Indian rice in a predictable way that we can fast access and to a good quality. But we're also looking at India with its global influence to try help us promote humanitarian access and solutions in places like Afghanistan, Myanmar, Yemen and beyond.
And if you can talk about the agreement, that MOU that you're going to sign with Government of India?
So we're going to sign an agreement where we would allow for more predictable prices in our procurements of fortified rice that brings quality but also predictability and speed. Often when there are crises, including natural disasters, we quickly need big volumes, and that's something that India can provide with the surpluses they now have.
India's National Food Security Act and midday meal scheme feed millions daily. How can these models be adapted for countries in crisis like Sudan and Haiti, and what role can India play in sharing this expertise?
Well, that's what I'm here also to discuss with the government of India. What we would be keen to do is to set up what we call a center of excellence, where we draw on the domestic, the national experiences, success stories of India, and we can then make them available to the rest of the world as an inspiration and lessons learned that can be drawn and where solutions then can be found elsewhere. We have a network of some 100 country offices, and that's what we offer in terms of them bringing the solutions of India to the rest of the world.
Gaza faces a catastrophic famine with 500,000 people starving. What are the immediate challenges in delivering aid, and how can India's diplomatic and humanitarian influence help open access?
Well, WFP has been in Gaza also before the war, and we have been working there now throughout the war, assisting approximately 1 million people per month. Right now, it's the worst we have seen it ever. We have a declaration now of famine in parts of Gaza, and unless there is a turn of events, we will see a starvation crisis in Gaza. We're already seeing children dying, mothers dying of starvation, and we are really now pushing to be able to do more. We have enough food on the borders to feed the entire population for 3 months. What we need is really access. We need to be able to get also to the most vulnerable people. We're now averaging around 100 trucks maybe per day. We need to get to 300-400 trucks. That's the only way to turn this around. We showed back in February that we can do it. February there was a ceasefire of 40 days. We brought over 8,000 trucks in. We opened 25 bakeries. We had hundreds of soup kitchens, and we turned the situation around. We can do that again if we're allowed. And obviously what's needed is a ceasefire. And India, like the rest of the world community basically, is pushing for that ceasefire. We're hopeful, but it's urgent. It has to happen now because every day children are dying.
World Food Programme faces 40% funding cut this year, with US ending its support, hitting South Asia hard. How will this impact Afghanistan and Rohingya in Bangladesh, and what can India do to mitigate the shortfall?
Well, I think it's important to say that it's not only the US that is cutting. It's also traditional partners in Europe, UK, the European Union, Germany. So it's across the board. Many countries are shifting priorities away from humanitarian assistance. And that is happening at a time when the needs are going up. There are some countries where it's hitting hard. Afghanistan is one of those. 3 years ago, we were assisting almost 10 million people in Afghanistan. We are now assisting between 1 to 2 million. And we are cutting basically from the hungry to give to the starving. The problem with that is that next year, the hungry will be the starving. And so the envelope, the number of people who are starving will increase. We are extremely worried about the winter coming in Afghanistan because we have not been able to do the pre-positioning. In past years, we have been able to reach those communities that during winter are locked down because of the snow. And now we have not been able to do this. So we fear that next year we will see an even worse situation in Afghanistan. In Cox's Bazar with the Rohingya refugees, we have a different situation. About 1 million people who have nowhere else really to turn. They cannot integrate and work, nor can they go back to Myanmar. They depend on our assistance. And so if we cut our assistance, they either starve or they have to turn to negative coping mechanism, as we call it. And I think the international community need to figure out a way now on how to support the 1 million Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar. There is no solution, but we are pushing for the world community to come together, and obviously India, being a neighboring country, has an important role to play in that discussion.
With limited funds, how does the World Food Programme decide who gets aid and who doesn't? What's the human cost of these tough calls in hunger hotspots?
So we are assisting around 100 million people out of the 320 that are acutely food insecure. Some of it can be covered by governments in some context. Some of it can be covered by other international actors like the World Bank. But in many contexts, we are forced to prioritize. And as I mentioned, in some countries, it's quite dramatic, like in Afghanistan. What we are trying to do is to find the right balance between not cutting the level of assistance we are giving so it becomes meaningless. If you need one set of food to survive over a month, if we cut that by 50%, maybe it doesn't become meaningful in assistance. But that's one way of course, cutting our assistance, the amount of assistance that we give. We then need to look, instead of cutting the number of people, and what we try then to do is to say who are the most vulnerable. Is it the women and children? Is it the women that are widowed and don't have anyone who can work and help them? Is it the disabled? So within a community, instead of giving the entire vulnerable community assistance, can we target the most vulnerable? Those are the kinds of discussions that we're having, but it's very difficult and painful. And obviously there are going to be large numbers of people who fall between the cracks and who are going to go home hungry, and unfortunately we're going to see death also as a result of these cuts.
Climate shocks, conflicts, and economic crises are driving hunger. How critical is cooperation with emerging powers like India in building food security for vulnerable nations?
It's critical. For one, because of Western OECD countries pulling back on the funding, but I think also importantly because of the solutions that India has found for itself to deal with its food security, and those are more relevant in parts of Africa or in Asia than frankly the more recent experiences in Europe or North America. And so also when it comes to ideas and solutions, India, Brazil, South Africa has a lot to offer. But also on the diplomacy front, India has increasing influence, and so in dealing with conflicts and crises, India has an important voice, whether that's bilaterally via the G20 or as a regional superpower. And so again, excited to be here in Delhi. We have a long agenda, a lot of issues to discuss, but the partnership with India is critical to us at the World Food Programme.
Hunger is surging again globally. What is the current scope of this crisis and what are the main forces, conflict, climate or economics, pushing millions towards starvation?
Well, I would highlight conflict for sure. 2/3 of the people who are today acutely food insecure is because of conflict. And it's increasing not only Gaza, but in South Sudan, in the eastern Congo, Haiti. There are many other examples where the conflict is increasing. But often it's a combination of the three. Somalia, for example, continues to struggle with insurgency of Al-Shabaab, but it's also hit by both drought and floods in different parts of its country and have now seen dramatic food inflation or inflation of food prices over the past few months. So you have one country who's basically seeing a perfect storm of the three, pushing more people into hunger. So it's hard to pick one, but certainly conflict is the main driver at the moment.
The World Food Programme's 2019 Nobel Peace Prize recognized its role in linking food security to peace. How is the World Food Programme building on this legacy to fight hunger today, and where does India fit in?
Well, unfortunately, it's hard to be hopeful right now because there are increasing numbers of conflicts. But we are, of course, highlighting food as the key element here. If there is no food security, there is no national security, there is no peace. And if in a world now where there are increasing polarization, increasing divide, we believe that if there is one thing that the world can come together on, it's that no child should walk hungry. We think that India has an important voice to play in that endeavor as an important actor in the United Nations, in the G20, to really put food security on the agenda and push the world towards this vision of zero hunger.
World Food Programme's partnership with India has delivered remarkable results. Can you highlight key achievements and how the collaboration is inspiring global hunger solutions?
I think it's hard to point to one thing, but maybe if I pick one, it's around the supply chain optimization that we have been supporting for your own food distribution programs, and where there has been gains up to $30 million in terms of savings. We are now bringing those solutions also to our operations in places like Ethiopia and Sudan. And by doing so, with less money, we are going to be able to do more. And I think that's the story of today. How do we do more with less? And India has important stories to tell on that.
To our viewers in India and beyond, what's your urgent message about the hunger crisis? How can governments, businesses and individuals step up to make a difference?
Well, I think one is to bring attention. We have some attention around Gaza, but we have much less attention around countries like Sudan, Haiti, the Congo, which is also suffering a crisis that if this would have been at any other time, it would have been at the top of the agenda. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I think the attention is important. Second is, of course, to then turn that attention into engagement and support. WFP has an impressive machinery. We're always on the front lines. We deliver effectively, we save lives. And so we hope that India and Indians, also private sector and private individuals, will step forward and add resources and money to our operations, but also their political weight and their diplomatic weight to promote our operations worldwide.
Mr. Skau, thank you for your powerful insights and for spotlighting India's vital role in the fight against the hunger.
No, thank you for having me.
This is a call to action for all of us. Hunger is a shared challenge and India's leadership offers hope. Stay tuned to PTR for the stories that matter most.